Hey everybody, Carolina Knives here. Today, I'm going to show a couple slips that me and Knife Crazy have done. If y'all watch my shorts, then you've seen them before, but this is the newest one I just made. I made it for a knife I got coming in the mail. There's Carolina Knives, my little maker's mark, I guess. Look at that stitching. Some people don't really care about the stitching. They'll just stamp, punch it together, but I really care about how straight the stitching looks and how straight the stamps look. Now, this is how me and Knife Crazy make the stamps. So this thing, you bought a pack of like 3. All this, like most of the stuff comes from Hobby Lobby or Amazon, but there they are. There's that one, then that one, and you have this little universal punch-in thing, handle, I guess. You just put it in there and put it down on the leather. Imagine there's a piece of leather right there, and then we use this is 2-pound weight. We use 2 pound and 5 pound. We use 5 pound for the bigger stuff, but for like letters and the little initials right there, we use the 2 pound. 5 pound, and then you just use it like a hammer and stamp it down, and then the shape comes out. Let's see what else we have. For the letters, we got this little thing. Like if I wanted to put Y, just take this and you can kind of square them together. So if you wanted a Y and L, if those were your initials, you could put them together like that and stamp them at the same time. But there's a bunch of different things you can do. Put those back. There's a bunch of different things you can do with all the different stamps and colors and stuff. Here's another example of a stamp. I don't have this one sitting right next to me, but there's a deer. And then you got the USA, American flag, and the stars. The star is sitting right here. You can tell, like, the sharper the edges are, the more defined you can get the stamp on the leather. This was actually the very first one we did. My grandpa made a holster, and we didn't need the holster anymore, so we turned it into a slip. You can see we kind of messed up on, this is a lining tool. You can gauge it how far you want it to go in, but it's so you can make a line for the threads to sit in flush, because on the back you can't, but we thought you were supposed to go all the way around with it, but you weren't. So you see how we went just one big line all the way around? Well, you're not supposed to do that. You're just supposed to do the show side, just one line like down to there, and stop it for the threads. But this houses a Barlow. I think this is a 75. Good snap. But perfect size for a Barlow or any smaller size case knife, GEC, whatever. This would actually be going to my grandpa. I have a knife. Well, he has a knife that I think would go perfect in here. There's this one with our last name on it. Let me find the letters I used right here. So that just stamps right in there. See, L stamps right there. I just did our last name on the way down. And then that one, you can see I use lighter threads. If you use dark leather and lighter threads, it shows up better. That's what I did for this one, because it was light leather. I did dark threads. I think it turned out pretty good. Helms, and then the back has USA and the flag on it with stars. Now, the way I like to make them, and me and my dad like to make them, is where you can do what I just did. Instead of digging in there and trying to pull it out or cutting a little hole, we like to be able to just, like right here, it's not coming out, you squeeze, and the knife comes out. That's how a lot of companies do it, higher end companies. This one, I don't think I ever took it out. This one is a case yellow synthetic trapper, just basic trapper. That's the pattern I collect. Then you do the shield on the front, Just smush it in. And then once we get it made, we like to kind of just press around it to get it molded. Press, press, press. And then it makes it easier to drop out. This one's, let's get measurement right here. This one is about 4.5 inches to the end. This one's a little bit shorter, probably 3 3/4. Just about a little bit over, probably 3 7/8. But smaller knife, full-size trapper. You can see the difference right there. Now, threads and needles and stuff, that's where it gets kind of complicated. You got bigger size thread. This is a thick thread right here, kind of a like lighter golden color. Then you got black thread. That's what I use for this slip. You can do whatever mismatch colors you want, whatever like dyes you want. If you get that natural color leather, you could dye it like green if you wanted to. After or before we stamp it with these big stamps or doing letters, we use leather conditioner to soften up the leather. So whenever you stamp it, it imprints it better. Because if you just take this right here, we stamp after we get it sewn up and finished, and then we stamp it. A lot of people stamp before, but we just found this works better. If you stamp it whenever it's dry, it'll be like barely showing up like those two. But then if you stamp it while it's soaked with leather conditioner, it's going to be super just in there. You can actually feel the ridges in there. This one I made, bear on the front, for a Bear & Sons Barlow I got coming in the mail. I'll do a video on that mail call, and then I'll do an unboxing on it. But you'll see that either Monday or Tuesday. Let's go over some of the tools that you need to get started if you wanted to do this. A lot of people do like $25 to $100 for all the different stuff they make. The different like toolings and stuff like that. So this is pretty much, let me grab a couple needles. For a basic, just beginning, you just want to get them cranked out and get them done. This is about all you need to start with. There's some glue. So this is weldwood, contact cement, like Elmer's contact cement would work too. You definitely need this because you do not want to be stitching, and this is just a blank piece. You don't want to be stitching and it just sliding and coming apart, and that's not good. So you got to get it to stick. So weldwood, that's the best one that we found. So this is all you need starting out. You don't really need all these different ones. You definitely need a 2 and you need a long one. So those are all you need to start off. This, whenever you get done with a slip, you go along the edges to get that super like glass smooth finish. That's what that is. This is an edger. So this is an example piece that I have out that I'm actually making for this knife. Right now you can tell that the edges are just sharp. We cut it with a razor knife out of a bigger sheet and the edges are just sharp. This, you would actually lay it down like this and take that and go along the edges, and it would come out like a full string of leather off of there. And then, so after that, you would glue it, get it stuck together. We put it in a vise with like some wood or leather in it to keep it in there. Make sure your corners and everything's perfect. Yeah. And then you would put the weldwood on there, smush it together, get it stuck. Next step after that, you would take this lining tool, and that's how, where's the example piece? I don't have one right here. I'll just use a slip. You can see the front side, if I get close, the threads are super flush. But if you go to the back, they're raised up. That's because on the front, you use this tool and you go across there like that, and it lines it out, and a whole piece of leather comes off of there. So they're stuck down in there and they're not gonna wear either. It just looks better on the front. So you do that. Then next step, you take this is a 5-prong, 6-prong, and you stamp it in that line, and you get all the stamps done, and it'll be all those lines down there, those little holes. So then you can put your thread in. Any kind of thread works. It's better if it's wax thread. You can tell the wax is on there. All of this comes in a starter kit. You can go to Amazon and just look up leather tooling starter kit. It just comes like this. The tools you do got to buy separate for some of them. Some of them come with it. But nice little zip up case with a thread and repair kit and different heads for the lining tool right here. But another thing that we found that's a good tip, is putting a piece of metal. This is just a little thin piece of metal right there. So whenever you're stamping, it doesn't come out on the back. It's another good tip. Those sets on Amazon are probably 20 to 80 bucks, depending on which one you get, how much stuff you get in it. But you can start making your own slips for real cheap. I know Richard Knives says the first slip he ever made, he used a fork and sewing needles. So you can start with nothing, or you can start with like the best of the best. But another good thing we found, I don't know what size needles they are, but get smaller needles. You can tell those big needles in there with the like super thick needles, it's very hard to like punch the leather through it. A lot easier with smaller needles. This is just a couple things me and my dad, Knife Crazy, found to help making the leather, making it easier, and just stuff like that. But y'all see this on a YouTube short eventually with this knife in it. And sizes, you just want to go, if this is folded in half, it'll end up about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch sticking out from the top. That's about what we like. The width, you just kind of go by what you think. 2.5 is good for this one. I think this one's 2.5. Let's measure it. Yep, 2.5 on the dot. 2.5, 2.25. I think this one's 2 inches on the dot, just because it's a thinner knife. Yep, 2 inches on the dot. Thinner knife, you definitely want a smaller compact slip. With a thicker 2-bladed knife, you want a wider slip, so you're able to drop it out like that. That's just a couple helpful tips from Knife Crazy and Carolina Knives. Be lookout for this video and this YouTube short on this knife right here. Hope these tips helped. If you want to get started with leather, or if you saw me and Knife Crazy's YouTube shorts and you were wondering how we do it and stuff like that, this is just a kind of an intro video on what we've been doing and what we found helpful, stuff like that. After you get done, just condition with like mineral oil or leather conditioner. That's what we found. Definitely before you start doing the tooling and the stamping, get a piece of practice leather and just practice on there. You can tell this one's dyed, but this used to look like this natural color, but it's dyed now. You can tell. We'll probably do this to a couple more of these slips. It really turned out good, how it kind of looks rustic. But yeah, that's Knife Crazy's logo. That's my logo. We were just practicing the stars and stuff like that. But hope you found this video helpful, and hope it answered a couple questions that y'all had if you were seeing our shorts and wondering how we were doing it and just getting started. Thanks for watching.